We're joined now by Kevin Garratt, who's at his home in Vancouver. And, so many of us watching those emotional pictures of reunions in Canada. What did you think when you saw Spavor and Kovrig finally back in Canada?
Well, I was thrilled because I know very well what that feeling is like. We were detained unjustly and unfairly also in China for 775 days. For them, it was 1,020. But for me, it brought back all those feelings of being reunited with Julia, my wife, my kids, my grandkids, and all the emotions that comes with. But it's also the very beginning of relieving that all that pressure and tension you've lived under for so long.
Tell me about your experience in prison in China.
Wow, that'll take a book. But it was not fun. It was not nice. There was 14 in my cell. You have to pay for everything if you want food. The lights are on 24/7. There's guards, of course, monitoring you, cameras in the room. Your bathroom's a glass enclosure, so it's open to the world. And, just not treated very nicely. And I had all sorts of people come through my cell, 80 or 90 in the 19 months I was in that particular cell. And, every kind of crime imaginable passed through my cell. An inmate passed through there.
And besides all the things you mentioned there, how were you treated?
I was treated okay, basically like other prisoners. I ate the same food when there was food because there wasn't always food to buy or eat. But I had to sit and watch the news every night at 7 o'clock, the CCTV news. You have to do that. You have to be there for your inspection every morning when the guard comes in and he counts, make sure everyone's there, which there's nowhere to go really. But, so you're very controlled, very regimented, and you have to fold your bed things in a certain way. You have to eat at a certain time. You can't eat at another time. So everything's very controlled. All
of that while knowing that you hadn't done anything wrong. And
exactly.
So then you go from this, from prison, essentially, it was prison, to being free in Canada. Tell me about that transition, the first few hours, the first few days of freedom at home.
It was kind of surreal. Like I could hardly believe I was there because it happened so suddenly for me. It was, I had a verdict hearing one afternoon, and within 36 hours I was on a plane and then back in Canada. And it was just almost didn't seem real, and I almost didn't really believe it was happening until we actually got out of Chinese airspace. But getting back and my family all being there when I arrived was incredible to feel and see that. But then I could kind of decide what I wanted to do. I wanted to go get a coffee. Well, I could never do that in prison. I wanted to go get a burger or something like that. There's nothing like that in prison. So it was like all of a sudden I'm faced with choices, which were good but normal, but you're all of a sudden faced with all these things you had not thought about or even dreamed of for months and months and months.
I feel like there's probably a period of elation and adrenaline, right after you get out. And then I wonder what happens when that slowly diminishes, when it wears off. And so, in terms of the two Michaels as well, what do you think is in store for them, or at least what happened to you after that initial rush of freedom?
Well, then, well-meaning friends said, "Oh, what are you going to do now?" And we were given some really good advice, and it was to don't make any major decisions for 18 to 24 months. And that, for whatever reason, that stuck with us. It's like, okay, we won't. We spoke, we were able to thank a lot of people, speak at a number of churches, and because we had thousands of people praying for us around the world. And, but there was that kind of, not a letdown, but just a decompressing, which is necessary, and I found what was best for me was just to do normal things. We talked to some counselors and things like that, but the best thing for me was just meeting friends, meeting family, going for coffee, walking in the park, those kind of things without any kind of pressure around. That's what really helped. But it began to release that tension and pressure that was been there for so long.
We have just 30 seconds. Let me finish with this. Do you have animosity now towards China?
No, I don't. We'd love to go back. We can't. Well, technically, I guess we could, but I don't know if they'd ever give us a visa. But, this is the political system. This is the system. It's not the people. And the people we love, and we have great friends there. But, I don't hold animosity towards them. It was hard, the most difficult time of our lives. But, God saw us through, and that's what's most important.
Kevin Garratt, I should say, you said you would take a book to explain it, and you were telling me you've written a book, Two Tears on the Window. But thank you very much for telling us your story here tonight.
You're welcome.